Hello, this is Mr. Buffington from Simplify Academy, and today we are multiplying decimals. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about multiplying numbers that have decimals in them, and we're going to look at some word problems with multiplying of decimals. First off, when you're multiplying a decimal, it looks very much like when you're multiplying normal numbers. And I say normal numbers. I should probably be like non-decimal numbers. Numbers that don't have decimals. So basically you ignore the decimal and rewrite it. So 1.5 times 2, I would just ignore the decimal or rewrite it vertically like this and pretend that there isn't a decimal there. So I would look at this and think 15 times 2. Remember, I'm trying to ignore that decimal. If it helps for you to kind of rewrite it and not write the decimal in at first, that's fine. 15 times 2 is 30. That's absolutely fine. But at the end, you do need to have the decimals in there. So I'm going to leave them there and then ask you to use your imagination to ignore them. But again, if it's helpful for you to rewrite it and ignore the decimal, that's fine too. Anyway, now that we've gotten to this point and we have 15 times 2 is 30, now we have to go back and think about the decimal. You count the digits on the right of the decimal. So in this case, I only have one digit on the right of the decimal. In both of those numbers, the only number on the right of the decimal is that 5, 1.5. Right? We said ignoring it, it would be a 15. Now it's a 1.5 again. One number on the right of the decimal. Because there's one number on the right of the decimal, the final answer should have the same amount of numbers on the right of the decimal. So it will have the 0. Now zeros are included in this, so 1.5 times 2 is equal to 3, or 3.0. If you get rid of the zeros, then it starts to make some problems. But if you keep the zeros in, that's the basic rule, and everything should be fine. Let's do some examples. 7.96 times 12. I'm going to rewrite it, ignoring the decimal. Again, with my imagination, I ignore that decimal, and it becomes 796 times 12. I multiply that like normal, and I get 9,552. Then I count the digits on the right of the decimal. I've got a 9 and a 6. That's 2 digits on the right of the decimal. Therefore, my final answer needs to have 2 digits on the right of the decimal. So my decimal goes right there, and I have 95.52, or 95 and 52 hundredths. When we're talking about place values like this, you might have a question that says 7/10 times 4. This is when we get into preparing for our word problems. If it says 7/10 times 4, we need to rewrite it knowing where our place values are. And we'll ignore the decimals. 7/10 is written as 0.7 or 0.7. That is 7/10. Now I'm going to pretend that decimal does not exist. I'm going to ignore it in my imagination and multiply. 7 times 4 is 28. I count. There is one digit on the right of the decimal. That's a 7, but there's one digit. So there's going to be one digit on the right of the decimal in my final answer. So I look at my answer, 28. I put a decimal here so that there is one digit on the right of the decimal. That's the way we do multiplying with decimals. All right, so here we have a situation, a word problem. You and 4 friends want to go out. You have $13.78 each. How much money do you have altogether? Typically, word problem questions with decimals will often involve money. It's one of the most natural places where we see decimals in our life. So don't be surprised if you get word problems with decimals that are talking about money. Let's go ahead and figure out this information we have. First of all, we're going to write this out as a multiplication, right? We have $13.78 times the number of people there. And the tricky part of this question might be that it's you and 4 friends, so it's actually 5 people. And that might throw us off, so just be aware of that. When you're looking at word problems, look for tricks like that and try and think about the situation. Drawing a picture might help, where you draw a picture of you and then you draw a picture of 5 friends or 4 friends, and you're like, oh, there's 5 people. Anyway, let's go ahead and pretend the decimal's not there and multiply like normal. We would get 6,890. We count the digits on the right of the decimal and have that same number in our final answer. So we're going to put the decimal right here, 68.90. That means how much money do we have altogether? We have $68.90 if we put all of our money together. And that's it. Boom! A couple things to remember. You ignore the decimal or pretend it doesn't exist, multiply like normal, and then count those digits, re-put in the decimal at the end. I hope that lesson was helpful for you. Have a wonderful day.